Could this ancient prophecy hold the key to understanding world history? What could Susa, an unremarkable edge city, tell us about the future of the Vatican? And who is the GOAT? Watch to the end to find out. So, I hope you guys have been doing well. It's been a little while, but basically, a little part of it is that I've been studying a bit. And in my studies, this is a small section from my 50-page document on, this is like 2.5 pages from my 50-page document on basically the specific topic of the GOAT. So first, some historical background. The Achaemenid dynasty, also known as the Medo-Persian Empire, or the Persian Empire, it originally took over 3 kingdoms, which were the Median Empire, the Lydian Kingdom, and the Neo-Babylonian Empire. And later on, they devour much land, and they start going into like Greece and stuff, and then eventually it collapses for a reason I'll get to later. And the reason it was called the Persian Empire and not Achaemenid, I'm pretty sure just means empire in their language. So it was the empire. It was just called Achaemenid, or however it's pronounced in their language. And some people will call it the Medo-Persian Empire, but it's mostly just known as the Persian Empire because, as mentioned, the 3 kingdoms that took over, one of them was the Median Empire. The Medes were a very small empire, and basically, like, they fused into one empire. They weren't, like, conquered violently, as opposed to, like, the Neo-Babylonian Empire and the Lydian Kingdom. It was more so like a mutual thing, but the Persians just kind of took over the government completely. So it was kind of like raised up on one side, which I think comes in later. And its capital was Persepolis, which was used for primarily ritualistic purposes. And it's a capital. But it also had a second capital in the winter time, which was known as Susa or Shushan, and this was by the Ulai River. Now, this gets important soon. So the way I have this set up, there are some quotations in here, and there's some just like paraphrases from me. And if you'd like to open the Bibles, your Bible, I'm going from Daniel chapter 8, verse 2, all the way down to, great question, like 25. And later I will also go to Daniel chapter 7, the beginning, so we get there when we get there. Before the river Ulai and Elam stood a ram with 2 high horns, but one was higher than the other, and the higher came up last. These horns are Media and Persia. Alright, it just says it in the text. Alright, so we're talking about the Medo-Persian Empire here. Right, again, with the one being higher and one being lower. Now, this ram went west, north, and south, and no beast could stand before him. And he basically did whatever he wanted, and no one could stop him. Then a flying goat with a notable horn between his eyes comes from the west and runs into the ram and destroys his horns and stomps on him. And here is a quote from Daniel chapter 8, verse 8. Therefore the he-goat waxed very strong, and when he was strong, the great horn was broken, and for it came up 4 notable horns toward the 4 winds of heaven. A little horn that becomes great comes out of one towards the south, east, and the pleasant land. It becomes so great that it casts stars down and stomps on them. And he magnifies himself so much to the point of the prince of the host, which is against the prince of princes. And he takes away the daily sacrifice with a host given to him by reason of transgression and casts down the sanctuary and truth. And it practiced and prospered. And before we get into like the next we're almost done. I would like to say that some of these things will not make much sense to you, which I'm going to re-go over them. But some things you just have to read like other books of the Bible to like understand like the connections. Like example, what I just read, it practiced and prospered. I'm pretty sure that's in the book of Revelation. And basically just like, I don't know, maybe study it yourself, read the Bible, read the Gospels, start there. It's pretty cool. There's just Jesus guy, and we get there when we get there, okay? So a saint is speaking with another saint, and the other says, How long shall be the vision the sorry how long shall be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice and the transgression of desolation, to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden underfoot? He says to Daniel 2,300 days, which is around 6.4 lunar years, which are like Jewish years. Then the sanctuary will be cleaned. So now you might be left with a few more questions than answers. And that's how I kind of feel in the rabbit hole of the Bible right now. So, like, what does this all mean? Now, let's find out. Now, there are some things that the text explicitly says, some things I have chosen to leave out until now, and some I, like, for example, them being Media and the horns being Media in Persia. That was in the text, but I left that in. That was like when it's interpreted by an angel. But there's also some historical stuff that's not really included in this interpretation that I would like to mention. So when Daniel first sees this ram with the two horns, one being higher than the other, which are just, the horns are called Media in Persia. This would have been referring to the period of time from 539 to 336 BC, when the Medo-Persian Empire ruled. Now we come to this goat, who absolutely tramples ground. Who is the GOAT? Is it Michael Jordan? Is it Ronaldo? Is it LeBron? Is it Messi? Like, who is this GOAT? It's neither of them.
Is this real?
Because this GOAT is king of Greece, and the Great Horn is the first king. Now, in 336 BC, if you remember, that was when I said Persia ended. Now, Greece rules from that time to 146 BC, after destroying Persia from the west, which is where the goat comes from. And the reason for this is because like Persia was attacking Greece because they wanted more land, and Greece was like, no, we're not doing this. And Alexander the Great basically pulls up and takes over Persia and a lot of land. So like the goat is the king of Greece. That is Alexander the Great. And then we get to a weird part where basically the great horn was broken and came up four notable ones toward the four winds of heaven. And the four winds of heaven here just means like the four cardinal directions, as we would call them. North, east, southwest. Never eat sour watermelon. I still say that, by the way, to this day. So interestingly, I was like researching this, and apparently after Alexander the Great dies suddenly, which is around 323 BC, Greece splits into the Ptolemaic Kingdom of Egypt, the Seleucid Empire in the east, the Kingdom of Pergamon in Asia Minor, and Macedon. So you have the south, you have the east, and then it's like, I've looked at different maps and different sources, and they'll say different things, but one like historical source I saw, it was like one of the first ones on Google, and it was like, it wasn't even like, because when I'm researching this stuff, a lot of it is like based on the Bible, but like this was just like a regular history thing. But basically in that one, it talks about Pergamon and Macedon, and specifically picked out 4 notable ones, as in the 4 notable horns. In fact, something interesting is that it doesn't say that there are only 4 horns necessarily, it says that they are notable. And typically, they will split it into 4 kingdoms, which is exactly what the nation breaks into, but not in his power, which is what Daniel chapter 8 verse 22 tells us. And basically, Asia Minor and Macedon are kind of like east and north. West and north. Now, a little horn that becomes great comes out of one towards the south, east, and the Pleasant Land. Now, one of these 4 kingdoms, which I'm just going to cut to the chase, it was the Seleucid Empire from these kingdoms. That was largely an eastern kingdom, as I already mentioned. However, it did go south, right? One towards the south, east, and the Pleasant Land. So weird term, but I think it can mean something like the Holy Land. And notice how it's like a little horn coming. It's a little horn coming out of that horn, because this one, like, it expanded. It was like the biggest empire. I'm pretty sure it was bigger than Egypt. And they were going to take over Egypt. I think that's for its own video. Now, in the book of Daniel, it says, "In the latter time of the kingdom, a fierce king stands up." As like the interpretation, so like we were talking about earlier, these horns are like powers or kings. In this case, this little horn is another king standing up. And this king is likely Antiochus IV Epiphanes, who was born in 215 BC to November to December 164 BC. And basically, as if you don't know, the name Epiphanes basically means like an incarnation of God, basically, and he made himself a god. And I'm pretty sure he thought that he was like the incarnation of Zeus. And basically, one of the things he did, which I'll get to in a second, is that he built a temple or a statue of Zeus, or of himself, basically, inside of the temple at Jerusalem, which was like where like the house of God was, and that's where like the Ark of the Covenant was too. And it was a pretty big deal. I'm pretty sure this was the second temple actually, so the original one got destroyed, but then it got rebuilt, and now it's like, we have our temple, and now it's gone. So it becomes so great that it casts down stars and stomps them down. We'll get to that in just a second. So basically, then also in the book of Daniel, he takes away the daily sacrifice and casts down the sanctuary in truth. And in 167 BC, the temple is desecrated. And a quote from Daniel chapter 8, this is verse 22, "And his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. And he shall destroy wonderfully, and shall prosper and practice, and shall destroy the mighty and the holy people." So basically, it's talking about the Jewish people, the people of God, right? Basically, the reason for this is because he made himself a god, and he was like, all right, everyone should worship me. And all the pagans were like, sure, you're another one of our gods, sure, okay, yeah, we'll worship you. But the Jews, they were strongly monotheistic. And they were like, no, there's only one God, and it's not you. And he was like, I don't like this. So he gets rid of them, as we'll see. And then the saints talk to each other, and then interestingly, he says 2,300 days, the transgression of desolation, to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden underfoot. Right, like how long is the host going to be trampled underfoot? How long is this transgression of desolation? And it's around 6.4 years, right? And it's 6.3 Gregorian years, which is our calendar, the normal one with the 365 days. The Jews have 360 days. From 170 BC, around to 164 BC in the 25th month, the 25th day of the month of Kislev, something like that. I remember practicing my Hebrew in a little bit, but it's like Kislev. I don't know. I got no clue. I don't speak Hebrew. I'm not. So, and then the Jews are persecuted from that time, which just happens to be around 6 years. And if you noticed, if you were keeping track, I said 170 BC to 164 BC. And when I mentioned the life of Antiochus Epiphanes, it was his life ended. Oh, actually, I skipped this. Actually, I'm pretty sure. But it was 200. It was supposed to be born 215 BC is when he was born, and then he died in November or December of 164 BC. And then this ends at 164 BC, 25th month of Kislev. It's or sorry, I can't. Or Kislev. Yeah, I'm probably pronouncing. To all the Jewish viewers, comment down below how to pronounce this. And that month is around December, which is, our festive month, right? It's when Christmas is, or for the Jews, which is who we're talking about, this is when they celebrate Hanukkah, exactly on the 25th day of the month of Kislev. I'm gonna say Kislev from now on. I'm gonna use my English. And precisely, basically, Hanukkah is celebrating when, like, the sanctuary was cleansed. I'm not doing it. And Hanukkah basically celebrates the sanctuary being clean after suffering persecution from Antiochus Epiphanes. And he, the king, will be broken without human means, according to the Book of Daniel, which I will get to in a second. But this interestingly correlates to a history book known as the Second Maccabees, chapter 9, verses 4 through 12. It is one of the deuterocanonical books, apocrypha, whatever you want to call them. I don't want to have a super strong opinion on whether or not they are scripture or not. That could be a video in of itself. And I'll read that passage to you in 1 second, sir. And what I would like to point out is that this transgression of desolation is an allusion for the future abomination of desolation, which will be even worse. And this is something that I'm noticing when I'm reading through, like, books in the Bible about prophecies of, like, the time of Jacob's trouble or the 7-year tribulation. So what I noticed is that these books will, like, almost parallel each other, and they will basically say, like, one thing that's going to be similar, and they'll give a later thing that, like, is the actual end time thing. Like I mentioned earlier, the temple being destroyed. In the book of Jeremiah, it talks about the prophecy of that going to happen. And then I'm pretty sure it slips in a little bit about the end times. I'm not done restudying that book, so I'll get back to you. Now, my mom gave me a Catholic Bible. It is the NRSV. Yep. So I'm gonna read to you what I mentioned. So because I think eventually when I'm done, I'll make a video talking about specifically it'll be like I read the Catholic books as a Protestant. I don't know. It'll be something it'll be like I read all the Catholic books to destroy Catholicism, something like that, to humiliate them. So I'm gonna give you a quote from Antiochus Epiphanes, as basically right after he finds out a couple of his guys get killed and their armies, and he's like, I've had enough. That's it. Right? It's kind of like when the wolf comes out during the full moon, or like there's no more Mr. Nice Guy, you know? It's like, you ever heard, like, you don't want to see a nice guy get angry, it's like, that's what's going on basically. He was like that was the straw that broke the camel's back. That was the final drop of water that overflow the vessel of water, right? He was like, first, you don't worship me. I need to be worshipped. And second, you kill my friends that tried killing you? What the heck? I don't like this. I want it to go my way. So, in his arrogance, he said, when I get there, I will make Jerusalem a cemetery of Jews. Yeah. He sounds like a certain Austrian-born politician, German politician. But then the all-seeing Lord, the God of Israel, struck him with an incurable and invisible blow. As soon as he stopped speaking, he was seized with a pain in his bowels, for which there was no relief, and with sharp internal torture. And then the text goes on to justify how, like, it's because he was a bad guy, he deserved this, he was torturing people, he deserves to get tortured, you know? He deserves a little bit. Alright? But he's not stopping, alright? Yet he did not in any way stop his insolence, and was even more filled with arrogance, breathing fire and rage against the Jews, and giving orders to drive even faster. And so it came about that he fell out of his chariot as it was rushing along, and the fall was so hard as to torture every limb of his body. Thus, he who only a little while before had thought in his superhuman arrogance that he could command the waves of the seas, and had imagined that he could weigh the high mountains in a balance, was brought down to earth and carried in a litter, making the power of God manifest to all. And so the ungodly man's body swarmed with worms, and while he was still living in anguish and pain, his flesh rotted away. And because of the stench, the whole army felt revulsion at his decay. And because of his intolerable stench, no one was able to carry the man who had a little while before had thought that he could touch the stars of heaven. This ties in earlier with the book of Daniel, in this pride of like, I'm going to touch heaven. It becomes so great that the horn becomes so great that it casts down stars and stomps on them. It's like, well, I'm going to grab the stars because I'm better. You're not him. Get off your high horse. Literally, he fell out. He fell off. Then it was that, broken in spirit, he began to lose much of his arrogance, and to come to his senses under the scourge of God. For he was tortured with pain at every moment. And when he could not endure his own stench, he uttered these words: It is right to be subject to God. Mortals should not think that they are equal to God. Or not think thoughts proper only to God. Because, like I said, his name was Epiphanes. Antiochus Epiphanes. He thought he was God. And, it's kind of a story of how humble guy gets humble. And this historically, he died. He was about to conquest the Jews and he died. And then Hanukkah, because they were free. Well, he didn't die yet. Let me see. And here he writes a letter to the Jews. Oh yeah, by the way, in verse 19. By the way, in verse 4, he's saying, when I get there, I will make Jerusalem a cemetery of Jews. In verse 19, he's saying, the same guy is saying, to his worthy Jewish citizens, Antiochus their king in general sends hearty greetings and good wishes for their health and prosperity. If you and your children are well, and your affairs are as you wish, I am glad, as my hope is in heaven. Right? It's almost funny, because he goes from, I'm gonna kill, right, this guy's breathing fire against the Jews, and then he believes in God, and God changes his heart. Beautiful testimony. And then, so the murderer and blasphemer, having endured the more intense suffering, such as he had inflicted on others, came to the end of his life, by a most pitiable fate, among the mountains in a strange land. And Philip, one of his courtiers, took his body home. Then, fearing the son of Antiochus, he withdrew to Ptolemy in Egypt. So in the 3rd year of the reign of King Belshazzar, a vision appeared unto me, even unto me Daniel, after that which appeared unto me at the first, And I saw in a vision, and it came to pass when I saw that I was at Shushan in the palace, which is in the province of Elam. And I saw in a vision, and I was by the river of Ulai. That's verse 1 through 2. You can see why I paraphrased it. So Shushan, Susa, it's got like, people will call it many different things. There's multiple names for it. Now, it was indeed in the province of Elam, near the Ulai River. So this was written in the third year of King Belshazzar, which was 556 BC. Remember that, 556 BC. And Shushan was a Babylonian city near the border of Persia, or actually, I'm pretty sure it was Media. Oh well. And it would have been captured around 539 BC when the Neo-Babylonian Empire fell. So it's like 17 years later that this prophecy is actually fulfilled. The importance for this is like, well, one, it was on the border where they would have been attacked from, and Shushan was the winter capital of the Persian Empire, and would have also been a key capture point for the Greeks, because it's the capital of the empire. So, like, of course, Daniel is going to be seeing it from the capital, and they ended up capturing Persia from 480 to 479 BC. So that's like, I'm pretty sure it's like 75 years. That's 3/4 of a century later that the Greeks actually captured Persia. And yet Daniel was getting this vision. Like, Daniel was dead when this happened, by the way. He died before the year 400. I mean, you know, before the year 500 BC, because it counts backwards. I'm special. What? So this prophecy is fulfilled in the conquest of the Persian Empire by Alexander the Great, and built confidence in the accuracy of other prophecies in the Bible, including those about the final beast, Rome, and the end times. So I'm going to skip over a bit, but basically, Daniel has a vision of 4 beasts, and the first one was basically the Babylonian Empire, the lion. I thought the beast could be its own video. The bear is Persia, raised on one side, and now he sees a leopard in the vision, which is like Alexander the Great, because it has 4 wings and 4 heads, and dominion was given to it. It's got the 4 kingdoms, split into 4 kingdoms, the 4 heads, the 4 wings, you know. And then, it's a quote from it. After this, I saw in the night visions, and behold, a 4th beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it. And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. And verse 19 adds that it had nails of brass. Well, you know, it's a very powerful thing. Now, Babylonian Empire, Persian Empire, Greek Empire. What's this next beast? Rome takes over Greece. Around 146 BC, the Battle of Corinth. It was kind of gradual when it was taken over. It's not exactly agreed upon the date, but Rome did conquer Greece next. And that was the last thing. But and then obviously we're talking about the horns basically always representing kings. And I'm pretty sure it does mention that this last beast does have horns like that. The horns are king. Now, there's a lot of other stuff about Tom Jacob's trouble that is too much for this video alone. But what I'd like to point out is that these are not just historical events, but have spiritual significance. The coming of Jesus Christ was prophesied by other prophecies, and he would be cut off, but not for himself, and by his wounds we are healed. And Hebrews chapter 7 verse 27 says, referring to Jesus, who needeth not daily, as those high priests, to offer up sacrifice, first for his own sins, and then for the people's. For this he did once, when he offered up himself. I mean, it could be an entire video itself, of me trying to prove that those saved won't experience the tribulation. But basically, if you trust in Him and for your righteousness, for like the reason you have trust in Him for your righteousness is because all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God, and the wages of sin is death. But the gift of God is eternal life through Jesus Christ our Lord. And basically, when you trust in Him for your righteousness, and He basically pays for your sins, then your future is secure because you will be with Him in paradise. And you're not going to have to deal with Rome, which, again, that could be its own video. The whole thing with the Vatican. And, I do believe Rome, technically, there's some people that said it ended in 400 AD. Some people saying it ends in 1400 AD. There's a very big range. I don't remember the exact numbers off the top of my head. It's somewhere. The Roman Empire became the Holy Roman Empire, and when the state kind of officially accepted Catholicism, then it kind of did its own thing, and there was some splits and some political stuff, but essentially the line of leaders, the Pope, still exists from the Bishop of Rome, Peter. And the Vatican, it's in the city of Rome, you can't make this up. It's called the Roman Catholic Church. It is Rome. And the final beast, in another thing, it says that it's going to be a nation made out of iron and miry clay. And it's gonna be mixed. It's gonna be mixed Rome, and again, this is a whole video in itself. I'm not gonna get into it. Basically, be careful what doctrines you're affirming. Alright? When you're going to church, be kind of mindful and read the Bible so you know what they're teaching and so you don't get caught up in any bad stuff. And accept the good news of Jesus and find peace and hope. So for those who have asked why it's been so long, I've been up to studying lately. Not lately, but back in it's probably been it's 3 months ago, 2 months ago. 2 months ago, it was exam season. Actually, no, yeah, it was 3 months ago the last time I uploaded a video, because I actually never made a video for over Pride Month, because I was it was humble month, so I was being humble. What's up? I was I'm just gonna get too many views. I have to humble myself, So I'm not gonna tell myself I getting a million views, I think I'm him, but it's I'm joking. But basically, mostly I was studying for exams, and I had to there was university stuff I had to figure out in the start, and then I was studying the Bible, as I mentioned, with my 43 pages, and I don't know where time goes sometimes. I just wasn't making time for it because I was out of the habit. I had stopped doing it for a while. I was just mostly locked in on the Bible and reading and working out and eating. And I've got friends I hang out with now, so that takes up a little bit of time that I would use on videos. And I was out of the habit, so I just wasn't into it. And I was studying the Bible, and then I had to get some more uni stuff figured out as we got to that side of the summer. And now it's at a point where it's I'm waiting to do some. It doesn't matter, basically. Another thing that I was trying to do is I come up with video ideas, but something I want to do is actually implement it before just telling you guys to implement it. Because if I tell you guys, which I'm gonna tell you right now, to take the initiative, implement, read the Bible, pray, give your life to Jesus, but yet I haven't done that, how am I supposed to tell you what to do if I don't do it, Because like I've read the Bible. That's what I've been doing on my time. Like I don't think you have to read as much as I've been reading. Like maybe only like I mean again, I haven't just been reading it. I've been like basically reading and rereading. So I'm basically reading it twice. And then I have to like I'm writing it down too. So it's like I'm extra reading it. Like you don't have to go that far. Please don't. It's a waste of time. It's saying like gotta give your life to Jesus. Practice reading the Bible. Very good. Very good. And that's it, guys. We're gone. We're gone. Bye. Like, make sure to like the video, comment, and subscribe. Comment your favorite thing about the video, something you learned, or like a critique even. I'd love that. Or yeah. Um, that's it. Keep growing. So, yep. No. Are you joking, my square? What is this? I guess. I may or may not have to use stock footage for this entire video because I just pulled back up and then my camera was frozen. So, uh-oh, in person. All right.